What's up, y'all? It's Dave Bloom. I was on the Beaver Builder Facebook group today. Saw this post by Lee Blue. Lee Blue wants to build a navigation bar that is less painful. Struggling to do it in Beaver Builder. He did this with Cadence. And so I'd like to show off. It's just a proof of concept video. It's for coders. It's for people who say yes to HTML or speak HTML and can kind of understand what's going on. It's a new kind of HTML module for Beaver Builder that uses what's called a declarative utility class syntax for styling things inside the HTML instead of styling things with settings forms. So if you're ever tired about looking through settings forms to style stuff or the limitations of settings forms, then this might be for you. So this is just a proof of concept video. I'm going to build a navigation bar that acts kind of similarly to this, like hides stuff at different screen sizes, centers things the way it should be centered. And I'm just going to go after it. This is unscripted. And I want to put some of these videos on the web so I can share them with people and go, hey, there's this cool new way of doing all of this inside of not only one module, but one input. So let's just build a navigation bar. I'm going to talk you through it. There's some shortcuts involved, but I'll talk you through every step of the way, and I'll explain kind of contextually why I made certain decisions. So this is an Aviator module. It's really just an HTML module. And I can, type stuff like a paragraph and lorem ipsum text in it, and that'll just render on the page. And immediately, like writing HTML and seeing an instant input is really important. You want to see what you're doing as you're doing it. Right now, I'm going to type a special kind of abbreviation that I'm going to expand. It's called outer. And what outer is going to create, it's going to create an outer section element, which is a valid HTML tag that'll pad our whole situation. And then it'll create a subsection, which is an immediate child of that. And the subsection will hold our elements like the logo, the desktop nav, the join button, a hamburger icon, and so on. I'm not going to build all the drop-down functionality for the hamburger or put his logo in there, but you'll see the placeholders. And so what this is going to do when I hit tab is it's going to spit out some HTML, and I'll tell you what this is doing. So first of all, you'll see that the classes inside of here kind of look like CSS. They're technically classes, but they look like CSS declarations. Like this is controlling the padding top and bottom, and it's referencing a custom property that's actually declared right here. And it's also controlling the left and right padding with another custom property, which those are kind of good things to globalize. So I can refer right to custom properties inside of these class names. It's kind of like Tailwind CSS, but the goal of this was to be a little bit more explicit about the names of these classes, so you didn't have to really try to parse what was going on and memorize Tailwind. You can just say that you can see that this subsection element, which is a custom element, has a display of flex, has a flex direction of column, so things are going vertically, and has a max width of another kind of, I think it's 1200 pixels here. And so I'm able to like reference values from a design system in CSS here, and center it on the page. So if I type stuff in it, it'll make sure that it's always within like a 1200 pixel window. So if I go in here and sneak a little red border around here, I can see that as I resize my browser, it'll kind of stay centered. That's always a good practice to have like this content window that you're working with. So that's the outer, and that's going to be our container for our navigation. So I know that I like to also use a custom element that I call item inside of my subsection. So subsection is like a container for stuff. The section element is really just an outer container that will give color and padding to the component. And so if I want to have items, I might cook up a few items. Like one will be like the logo. And I'm going to give that like, I like to start with flex containers whenever I'm building anything. It just is a way better syntax, and all these flex containers will just display things vertically for starters. So that'll be like my logo. And then another item might be the desktop nav. You can see I'm expanding abbreviations here, and I'm just going to say like, nav ul li times 4a or something like that. So I can just write this stuff out real quick. I can multi-cursor some hashes in here, and I can also just punch in some link text. So that'll be that. That's the second item. The third item might be a call to action, like join. So I'll just say like CTA. And you'll notice that I'm not like having to go in and drag and drop different modules around and negotiate columns. It's all just happening in the same place, so I can see everything. I can see the full picture of my design. I'll do an item with flex column and just say, you know, join. And I can see the output immediately. These things are being stacked because the subsection, their parent, is flex directioning them as columns. So if I just change that to row, I get this. And now I can kind of, I know that these are all taking up a third. And I want to kind of have this go horizontally and have these guys kind of bleed to the edges. So I know I'm going to need justify content space between. There's no abbreviation here. That's not going to really do much. I can also, because these things are still like kind of flexing out full width. So I'm just going to say border the children. Like BC is a special little class that I use to kind of give borders to the children so I can see like what space they're taking up. And now I might be able to multi-cursor on these two outside items and say like width fit content and flex shrink 0 or something so that they don't wrap. So that's a start. I also might want to add a gap up to this this element so that there's a gap between them, and I can use that same variable that I use for padding, which I like to do. Just use the section, and now we have that happening. So let's make these guys go horizontally. We want to give the UL a class of flex, and maybe we display flex, and then we can also justify those between, justify content space between, and let's also make sure that the width of this, I think this guy needs to have a width of 100% because by default it's not going to go full. So now I have that. Maybe I want to give it a max width of like, 600 pixels or something, but I don't want to give the max width to that element. I might want to give it to its parent. So I'm just able to make decisions very quickly. And maybe these are going to be longer. I might want to give these a little bit more room to breathe. I can make decisions really quickly on how I want my layout to look. So if I actually give this guy a border, I can see like this is a fat bar. So I want to make this way thinner. So I can just actually divide this variable by like 2 or 3. Let's say 2, 3. 3 looks good. And I'll remove the border around there. And I'll remove the border on the children. And I can also give this a special kind of class called a scheme, which is just a combination of a background color and a foreground color. And I might give it a class like to give it a dark color. And I can like highlight this, use up and down arrows to increment the color as I see fit. So I'm able to like really compose quickly. I might also choose to give this, wrap this in an anchor tag and give it a class of like, color variable for my design system. So a little bit brighter there or something like that. So now we have a navigation bar and we've spaced things out properly, but we do know that like as we get smaller and smaller, we probably want these two things to disappear. Or maybe we want the desktop nav to disappear under a burger that goes to the right of the join button. But maybe on smaller screens, we want to also keep that join button in view. Like maybe we can center it. We always want our like kind of primary call to action to be visible. So why don't we just tell the desktop nav to only show on larger screens and hide on everything else. So I'm just going to say display none, and then LG is a modifier that just says like, make this only happen on large screens. Or only show this on large screens. So now it'll hide on smaller ones. And now that I know that I want my burger over to the right of the join, I might just say like burger or something, or mobile nav, or whatever, however you want to label it. So let's just make another item, and we'll just call this like menu for now. Like I said, I'm not going to build the whole drop down right now. I'm just going to put this placeholder there. And we also need to make sure that this is fit content. And so that's good there. And now we want to do the opposite of what we do with the desktop nav and say like display this, but then like on larger screens, display none. Now this looks like a lot of code right now. It looks like the Matrix, right? I often use that analogy because a lot of times your eyes can kind of glaze over looking at all this if you're not used to looking at HTML. But if you are used to looking at HTML or you're open to it, and you do know a bit of CSS and how this works, it's actually quite nice to have everything, like the entire signature or the entire like blueprint of all of these elements design, encapsulated in 30 odd lines of code. You can just see everything that's going on. You don't have to go find stuff. You don't have to wonder what's making what do what. And now as I bring my navigation bar in, I have still a global call to action visible, and my menu bar is working. So if I added a couple of extra like elements to this, we'd still because it's being flexed, it's still kind of working fine. I might choose to put this same navigation list into something else, like into the drop-down functionality here. But the good thing about this is like I can copy this and paste this anywhere I need to just instantiate a NavBar. If I have another site or another page that just needs the same stuff, it's really, since it's all declared, it's declarative. This CSS is being generated automatically by the module. Everything that it needs to render properly is there. So I don't have to name this stuff. I don't have to put together some kind of system for it. I certainly don't have to write any custom CSS at all. It's all just baked into the architecture. And so I can make adjustments to it as I need to. But for right now, I just wanted to show off what that can do. It might be a little easier of an entry point to something like Tailwind because there's no build process required, and you don't have to memorize 100 plus like CSS property abbreviations that they've done to try to make this look a little bit slimmer. It's just expressive. It's just dumped out there for you to see, and it's not too difficult to understand when you want to examine one component, like that's that. This has these properties. Its children have those properties. So anyway, starting proof of concept for how to manage your navigation bar design with Aviator. If these kind of videos appeal to you and you want to learn how to build some other components, leave some comments, send me a message, let me know, like, I want to know how to build a hero. I want to know how to build a nice footer. I'm more than happy to just record a video of me doing it and give you the code to do so. This isn't for sale yet, but you might find yourself with an early access version if you desire one. I could always use beta testers.